Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, November 20th, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on the Frack Right Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means we do get our sources from the most reputable areas with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, the Daily Beast, Newsmax, News Media, all these other places that are pretty much just junk. Whether extreme left or extreme right views you get your views from, we simply don't do that. We provide you with nothing but just the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to watch our language, although the beginning of this title of this podcast suggests otherwise, but we try our best. At the same time, guys, we may show some things might be too graphic for our younger viewers. So if viewer discretion is advised, aside from that, welcome. So, welcome to the Kaka Show, or as I like to call it, the beginning of Trump's picks. We said it last week, guys, when I said meet your new death panel. I wasn't kidding when I sat there and actually meant that. Meet your death panel. The death panel they always talked about. Well, for that simple fact of the matter, guys, the picks that Trump keeps making, because Trump only picks the best and smartest people. The best and smartest people because he's a smart person. No, he's not. He's an idiot. That being said, guys, let's get through this because let's meet the next bunch of people that basically bought their own positions, if you will.
Lutnick wanted to be Secretary of the Treasury. He didn't get that, but he got something else today?
Yes, he is going to be Secretary of Commerce. Of course, he will have to also get confirmed, but it does seem as though this was a consolation prize for that Secretary of Treasury. Just as we've been reporting, there had been somewhat of a knife fight, which we were told by advisors was led by Howard Lutnick when he decided to put his name in the ring for Secretary of Treasury. The other candidate at that point had been Scott Bessent, a hedge fund manager. We still don't know if Bessent is the only one left. We had been told they'd expanded the list. He did a number of interviews over the last 2 days with new candidates for Secretary of Treasury. We'll see if we get that tonight. Just remember, this is one of the biggest positions that is left. So whether or not this Howard movement comes with eventually the Secretary of Treasury.
So yes, a CEO, and again, the conservative Republican mindset, the CEO, former CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, is now been picked to be the Secretary of Commerce. I'm sorry. A CEO being the Secretary of Commerce is like a drug fiend running the pharmacy at your local Walgreens. I'm just saying no good comes from this. And again, it's a Trump pick. And Lutnick did actually give to, and if you're wondering, yes, Lutnick did give to Trump's campaign. And much like anybody else that gives to Trump's campaign, 9 times out of 10, as long as you're not black, you've got a position somewhere. So again, no experience, just a businessman, gave money to Trump, loyalty to Trump. I know, guys, we're seeing a pattern here. We really, truly are. But there's also another caveat that we got to remember, guys. If you also were on Fox, as in this person, who is now Sean Duffy, who used to be on Fox, who was on Fox Business, also Duffy was a former congressman, has now been picked as the next Secretary of Transportation. Again, no, this man has zero experience. Basically was kissing Trump's behind the entire last couple of years, and now is going to be again vetted to be Secretary of Transportation. I keep saying this, guys, when it comes to all these things, there's always a pattern here. And if I'm being completely honest, this is what Trump likes to do. Trump literally likes to sit there and pick people who are going to be loyal to him. You know, it's kind of like a bad manager. They only pick brown nosers. Well, unfortunately, this bad manager is about to, again, who was already president-elect, is now about to be president again. But that's not his only picks that have got everybody scratching their heads outside of Matt Gaetz. He's also picked, Dr. Oz. Well, actually, I don't think on this one, Dr. Oz, but you'll get the idea.
And announcing two new administration picks, TV personality and physician Dr. Mehmet Oz as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, who Trump says will, quote, work closely with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to take on the illness industrial complex.
So let me stop it right there. Dr. Oz, a man who, again, was famous because, Oprah brought him on her show, man who eventually had his own show, a man who has swindled and pendled much medical advice that has kind of been questioned by the entire community, is now about to be in charge of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, which will affect a lot of our population. And everybody's like, I could see people from Fox News. Well, he is a doctor. He's a practicing physician. He's published many papers. He's been on Oprah. Surely surely he could be qualified. No, because Dr. Oz has peddled some stuff, much like Dr. Phil, who, by the way, Dr. Phil is actually kind of walking back his comments since he spoke out at a Trump rally. And now, folks starting to leave his ass. And now he's like, oh, well, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that out of support of Trump. I did that because Kamala just pretty much disrespected me, because I'm Dr. Phil McGraw. Yeah, we got it, you idiot. You did it because you thought you'd get some shine, found out you got some shit. But again, Dr. Oz leading the Medicare and Center for Medicare and Medicaid doesn't inspire me with a lot of confidence, because he wants to work with Robert F. Kennedy, a man who is in charge of health and health initiatives. If he's approved, this man, Robert F. Kennedy, a man who sounds like he needs a throat lozenge, Ricola, lemon tea, and a humidifier to understand him, because he sounds like if Vince McMahon sounded any more sinister, he'd be Robert F. Kennedy. That's all I'm saying. But again, he's supposed to be leading health initiatives, a guy who has had brain lesions, a guy who has admitted that he has carried several animal carcasses, a man who is just flat out effing weird, will now lead health initiatives. And now Dr. Oz, TV personality, last time until he did a practice, will now be leading the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. How many people right now are wondering, should I really have voted for Trump? And the answer is no, you shouldn't have. But now, you FA and you FO. Welcome to the Kaka Show. And their thing, not even done. The last pick, we finally have a Secretary of Education. And I guess I'm happy it's not Betsy Davos, but at the same time, another person who has previously served Trump, and again, will now be leading education. And I know, after I play this video, it's going to be a little bit off.
Overnight, President-elect Trump tapping Linda McMahon to lead the Department of Education, which he has repeatedly vowed to shut down.
And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states.
McMahon, who served in Trump's first administration, is a former World Wrestling Entertainment executive. It comes as Trump.
So let's stop it right there for a second, because Linda McMahon. For all those who have were really into, if you're like me and you've been into wrestling since you were 5, you'll know that name. For all those that don't, let me enlighten you. There's a documentary right now on Netflix called Mr. McMahon. That's about Vince and Kitty McMahon, the man who single-handedly may have killed territorial wrestling, at the same time created an empire in doing so, who is now under federal indictment. Sucks to be him. His wife, however, was an executive of the World Wrestling Entertainment Corporation, was actually the Secretary of Small Business Administration in Trump's first administration, will now lead the secretary, will now, if approved for her nomination, will lead education. Which I know a lot of people are scratching their heads and going, well, wait a minute. If she was in, wait a minute, Trump just sat there and said, above all else, he wants to get rid of the Department of Education because he wants to allow education and its responsibilities and accountability, mind you, to go back to the states, to which a lot of people are going, you know what, that's not a bad idea. For a lot of us who see the writing on the wall, no, it is a terrible effing idea. The reason why I say that, outside of two reasons. Linda McMahon has no education experience. She's never been an educator. She's never done a curriculum. She's never ran a school. She's never done any of these things. Much like Betsy DeVos, who basically donated to Trump's campaign and was awarded a position, so Linda McMahon. And again, I keep bringing this up as to why this is a problem. Because here's the thing, and I'm gonna keep pointing this out. The reason why it's a problem, ladies and gentlemen, is because the simple fact of the matter is you have these positions require experience. You know, for all those that are, you know, on LinkedIn and Career Builder and just in jobs in general, you're probably getting the whole thing of, oh, we need experience in here, here, and here. We need experience there. We need experience here. Because, you know, most jobs aren't just willing to train people no more. Now they just want to pay for experience or pay lack thereof. But you see what I'm getting at. Anyway, the fact that we still have jobs that we are pretty much trying to go for, ask for experience, yet if you kiss the expired California raisin's ass, you will get a position. And again, this is the reason why Linda McMahon is pretty much there, because she's loyal. She was loyal to Trump in his first administration. But again, Secretary of Small Business doesn't really do shit outside of, you know, quietly doing what Trump wants you to do. And again, Trump wants to dismantle the Trump wants to dismantle the Department of Education. Why? Because he sees it as a problem. Here, this is what I'm going to keep saying, because this is the one thing conservatives hate. Conservatives hate smart people. Conservatives love dumbasses. There's no other way I can sugarcoat that. Conservatives, I keep saying this, and there's a study to this, that the more educated you are, the less likely you are to vote conservative. Because again, conservatives love misinformed, ill-educated people instead of, you know, people that are actually going to think about everything you say as you say it. Which in this case, why Republicans want to attack education. Why they want to attack education? Because you want to ensure that the next generation is going to be so dumbed down that they are going to vote against their own interests, i.e. every red state out there. And again, here's another reason why you should be concerned that the Department of Education is basically under threat. This is in Texas. Texas officials want to add Bible lessons in public schools. Let me stress that again. Texas officials want to add Bible lessons for kindergarten to fifth grade classes in public schools because they believe that religion belongs in schools. They believe that, you know, we need to put Christ back in the classroom. And here's the thing. There's enough of them out there, guys, that have sat there and not only made their way through the ranks, not only made their way getting elected to certain positions, but they did just enough that Moms for Liberty would be freaking jealous. And it could actually happen. Oh, not to mention, for the simple fact of the matter, guys, that there's a superintendent in Oklahoma that purchased 60,000, a good number of Trump Bibles that he wants to introduce in his public schools, because he believes that the founding fathers were religious, which if anybody picked up a history book, you would find out that the founding fathers didn't want anything to do with religion, they wouldn't do anything with church and state being conjoined. They wanted separated. But here's the scary part. In Trump's America, where the Department of Education is non-existent, you're depending on states to run their own education. I was against homeschooling, but now that might be the only thing that saves some people. Just because watch America's education get dumbed down and at the same time engineered to assist them. But again, that's just the picks. But getting to the current picks, let's get back to Mr. Headset, Mr. Secretary of Defense, who again, for everybody that voted Republican, and you women out there that are in the armed force, and you women who are in armed forces, thank you for your service. If he had it his way, you wouldn't be there.
Hegseth has said fairly recently, literally just a couple days ago, about what he thinks should happen when it comes to the military.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
If we were to look at all of these appointments, including the White House staff, in a larger way, and that is what Trump is doing is what he said, and that is to undo in an insidious way, really the basic philosophies, tenets, legislative priorities, executive actions of the American liberal experiment in government that goes back to the New Deal. This is an attempt to end what we have been living with since before the Second World War, that it is as ambitious a project as any president has ever proposed. It's deadly serious, and he means to enforce it, not through democratic ideals and programs, but through purges, as we've seen today, through fiat, through fealty not to the Constitution, but fealty to the maximum leader. We are in a new place, but it is a deadly serious place. And all of these appointments fit together in terms of undoing this legacy that goes back to Roosevelt. And a lot of the people involved in undoing it have said that over the years.
On the subject of.
So let's think about that for a second, guys. Now, here's the one thing. I can't stand Carl Bernstein because he will try to mansplain his way out of everything. But yes, this pendejo decided that, say, women don't belong in the military. Oh, how 1950s of you, sir. Because, you know, well, you understand because he's an Iraq war veteran. He's a Bronze Star medalist. And I'm like, and yet a woman can't serve the same way a man can? Because here's my thing. They always try to say, well, a woman can't pull a fallen soldier. She's a danger to her entire unit. Here's my thing. If I'm serving with a woman and she gets my ass out of a hot spot, I'm thankful. I'm not gonna sit there and say, well, I don't think you should be out in the field because we're not more lethal as a unit because you're a woman. And at the same time, why does every other military force, China, Japan, Australia, South America, United Kingdom, all of them have women in their ranks? Some of them have dedicated women-only units who are very distinguished. And yet we got good old boy here who, if the Senate, if Trump and his new friends have their way, could possibly lead to denying women military service if they so choose. And again, it is amazing how much they try to put logic behind their sexism. They try, because again, it's that same idea, and it's honestly where we're at, how we got here. Because no matter what, America out there doesn't want to admit you don't want a woman to be president. Just admit it. Because this is twice now, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse. This is twice now America has sat there and went over the overly qualified, has proven themselves damn near flawless women, and you picked the egotistical, homophobical, sexist, fascist idiot and said, here are the keys to the country. Knock yourself out. You did it twice. And yet now you're about to have a defense secretary who doesn't believe that women can be combat capable. Women are combat capable. Because if women can do everything a man can do, why is that when it comes to military service, there's some out there that just don't want to be honest. And by that, I mean the Republicans saying, we want you women to act like they did in The Handmaid's Tale. We just want to have you as broodmares in the kitchen and nowhere near our fighting forces. Please and thank you. But they can't say that because then you have to call them what they are. Sexist and idiots. But hey, that's most of Trump's cabinet. But to take a break from that for a second, guys, there is some good news outside of this caca show that we kind of got right now. Wyoming, or a judge in Wyoming, may have gotten this right because a judge has just struck down abortion laws in Wyoming, including a ban on pills to where you can ban on abortion pills that you get through the mail. And again, this is great news because if you guys haven't noticed, we are approaching Trump's America. And at this point, what they want in Trump's America, they want you guys to basically be broodmares. And for a lot of women, I don't blame you. I don't even blame women in the 4B movement, honestly. I don't blame women for protecting themselves. I don't blame women for making sure they have access to health needs for themselves, including abortion. If that's what you want, go for it, because that's your body. Your body is your choice. Whoever did that whole thing of, your body, my choice, you deserve everything that you're getting. Because I can't stand when guys do that. See, guys think it's cool to sit there and, hop on the dumb trends where that Nicholas Fuentes Fuentes, whatever the hell his name is, he FA'd and then he FO'd, because you deserve everything you're getting from that by literally sitting there saying this dumbass slogan of your body, my choice. Here's my thing. And I don't mean to say this, but here's how I would combat that. Every time I think a guy was going to say that thing is cute, I was like, you know what? Let the guys in the LGBTQ plus community say that to you men. And try to get angry about it. Try. Well, I, laugh my ass in the background. But going back to Wyoming, that's a great thing because women need access to all health options. And again, because some people are completely twisted on the fact of, a woman's right, a woman's body and her right to choose, because that's all it is, a woman's body and her right to choose, and that nobody should be stuck in the middle of that. I mean, it's just that freaking simple. But good on you, Wyoming. But let's get to the elephant in the room, shall we? Mr. Matt Gaetz, Mr. AG, Mr. How the hell do you avoid the, I'm not going to say it's a Law and Order SVU moment just because me and my wife have been watching that quite a lot. But again, the story with him right now is that, well, he was picked for AG. He immediately resigned before the House Ethics Committee was going to release their report. Now, again, the news we're about to say is a little bit graphic, so viewer discretion is advised.
Those bombshell accusations. For the first time, we're learning what two women told the House Ethics Committee about Trump's AG nominee, Matt Gaetz. They claim that he paid them for sex, and there are receipts. In less than 48 hours, the House Ethics Committee is expected to potentially vote on whether to release findings into their investigation of Florida Representative Matt Gaetz. The committee has been investigating allegations Gaetz may have engaged in sexual misconduct with a minor, in addition to illicit drug use. And tonight, a growing number of senators say they must see the House Ethics Committee report. But sources tell ABC News Trump himself has called some senators to pressure them to vote for Gaetz. We're following it all tonight, and I'm joined now by my colleague, Nightline co-anchor Juju Chang. And Juju, you have this hot interview with the attorney representing the accusers.
Absolutely. The two women who were subpoenaed by the congressional hearing on the Ethics Committee, and they were compelled to testify. They didn't want to come forward, according to their attorney, but it was a wide-ranging interview. And so I sat down with this attorney, Joel Leopard, who's representing these two women, both adults, who told the House Ethics Committee that Gaetz paid them for sex and that they attended multiple drug-fueled sex parties with Gaetz. One claims she was even witnessed Gaetz having sex with her 17-year-old friend at a house party in Florida.
At this particular event, what did your client witness?
So she testified in July of 2017 at this house party. She was walking out to the pool area and she looked to her right and she saw Representative Gates having sex with her friend who was 17.
Do you know how many times, how many parties your clients went to and had sex with Representative Gates?
Well, not all of them were parties. So some of them were events, such as they attended election events like at hotels. They went with him to New York for a taping on Fox News. But approximately perhaps 10 times, 10 to 15 times, I think was the testimony about the number of times they might have had sex with Representative Gates.
How would you characterize these events?
So they were events that were more drugs and sex oriented events, which was typically a small group of individuals, 5 or 10, and they got together to party, to take drugs and have sex, essentially. And there were other events that took place at hotel rooms. There were and have smaller meetups. There were events at different individuals' houses. So there were trips such as to the Bahamas or to New York. So you can't characterize them as just one type of thing, but those are the types of situations that took place over 2017, 18, and in January 2019. They testified that they met up with Matt Gaetz in New York in January of 2019 for his appearance on Fox News.
Met up with or traveled with, do you know?
So Mr. Gaetz paid them for the tickets to come to New York for the trip. He was there with another female individual already. And so they went to Broadway shows and things like that and met him, went to the Fox News studio, I believe. And they went to Broadway shows while they're there.
What show did they see? I'm just curious now.
Pretty Woman.
About a sex worker.
I had not even thought about that.
Interesting. They testified in front of the House Ethics Committee. And what was that like for them? What was that experience like for them?
Well, they've done this a number of times, so most of it was matter of fact, but at times it was tearful. It was difficult. So each time they have had to relive the experience, it's been kind of, in a sense, reopening the old wounds. That means having to talk to me, prepare the testimony, prepare timelines, and essentially once they're done for one round of investigations, they do their best to forget it. And in the meantime, they're actually going through counseling paid for still by the FBI. My clients have been receiving counseling services paid for by the FBI for years.
Again, the House Ethics Committee is set to meet on Wednesday to decide whether to release their report on Gaetz or not. And of course, a growing number of Senate Republicans say they need this information as part of their confirmation process. And of course, Gaetz has long denied any and all of these wrongdoing allegations, Lindsay.
So what's crazy about this is, now, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's try this again. You have sex with a 17-year-old. Two people have seen you have sex with a 17-year-old. How is this man not sitting in a police station? How is he not sitting in a holding cell? Because anybody else would be where Diddy is now. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to do the whole, free Diddy or any of that. Oh, that mess. That man deserves everything he's getting to him. But the point I'm getting at is, this man did this as a senator. The House Ethics Committee interviewed these two potential witnesses. And as of today, because it is Wednesday, they have yet to release it. But yet, how is it that if Gaetz resigns, theoretically, the actual inquiry to him is over? That's the part I'm like, how is this not being turned over to, I don't know, the Department of Justice? How is this not being turned over? Because I cannot imagine just because he turned around and said, oh, I'm Attorney General, I'm taking it, I'm gone, peace. How is he not? How is it not? Because he is, and again, the Senate confirmations haven't happened for any of these yet. But the thing I'm getting at is, how is it that, okay, if you've got enough evidence for a case to be done, why is it not being thrown over to the Department of Justice? Why is not Merrick Garland and his Department of Justice for the next foreseeable 2 months not looking at this and going, yeah, we need to charge him? Because this is the problem that a lot of people, and I'm just being honest, this is the problem that a lot of people are going to have about this. What they're going to sit there and say is, what's the point if he does not see a courtroom? Because what are we saying to the American people? We are pretty much saying that, hey, if you're a congressman, you can get away with it. Because that's essentially what Gates is doing. Gates has sat there and said, it's almost as if Gates kind of got the heads up about the report coming out. And it's like, oh, dude, if you don't leave now, kiss your AG position goodbye. It felt like he got a heads up and he flew the coop. And to the House committee, the House Ethics Committee, I'm going to throw this out there. Why not just go ahead and release it? I am honestly trying to figure out what is the holdup in releasing this report. So, I mean, you're not going to, my thing is, Gates still has to go through a Senate confirmation hearing. Senate Republicans can sit there the entire time and be like, oh, we need to hear this report. We need to see this before we make our decisions. I love when Senate Republicans just come out of nowhere and say, well, we need to see this before we make our decisions. You're going to toe the party line. That's what you're going to do. Senate Republicans kill me when they sit there and go, oh, well, we need to look at what was found before we make decisions. Your decision's already been made. Say what you want about Republicans, but when Republicans, it's time for them to vote, they stick together like glue, even when that person is guilty as caca. Even when he is as guilty as all get out, they will still vote for him. So this whole thing of let me see the evidence, yeah, okay. Because when it comes down to that Senate confirmation hearing, you know what's going to happen? All in favor of voting Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Watch all of them, and it's amazing, including the women who are senators. Watch all of them confirm him. If a Republican votes against his confirmation hearing, I will be surprised, because I'm going to tell you how it's going to go. All Democrats are going to vote against him. All Republicans are going to go vote for him. And you know, at this point, because the Senate right now is owned by the Democrats, unless Republicans can get enough Democrats to vote on this, you might block it. Might. But at the same time, how is this man's case? Because any other individual who did what he did would be looking at a judge in a courtroom, not potentially the president-elect and his idiots, and being in a position to where he could basically burn everything down. Because that's what Republicans do. Republicans don't build, they burn everything down, and much like vultures, they pick apart the carcass and give it to their friends. Again, I'm not surprised by that, but at the same time, House the Ethics Committee, what the frack are you waiting on? And also, the senators that are trying to sit there and show some compassion, really? We already know what you're going to vote for. Because, again, welcome to the Kaka Show. That also being said, guys, you ever been in a Panera Bread just because an old white lady looked at your shirt and asked you, are you for Palestine? And you say yes, and then she decides to attack you? I give this person great restraint because, honestly, if someone attacked my wife, I'd probably be in jail.
A 64-year-old woman has been charged with 2 counts of hate crime and 1 count of disorderly conduct following an incident at a Panera Bread just outside of Chicago, according to Downers Grove police. It was partially recorded in this video.
Call the police. She came closer to our face and then started asking, are you Palestinian? And I was like, yes, I am. And then she proceeded to scream in my face, Palestine. Call the police. Stop.
Wasim Zaran said the woman started yelling expletives because he was wearing a sweatshirt with the word Palestine written on it. His pregnant wife then started filming the altercation.
She specifically asked, are you Palestinian? And I said yes, and then she started getting physical.
The complaint filed against the woman says that she, quote, allegedly committed a hate crime by reason of perceived national origin of 2 victims. Police identified the woman as Alexandra Sostakowicz and arrested her the following day. She is scheduled to be arraigned in December, according to CNN affiliate WLS. CNN reached out to Sostakowicz, but didn't hear back.
Yeah, you don't expect to, because she flipped out because the man was wearing a Palestine shirt. I'm sorry, wearing a shirt that had the word Palestine on it. And she asked him, "Are you Palestinian?" He said yes. She flipped out. I'm sorry. Like I said before, this new wave of people that just feel emboldened by Trump are going to do stuff. And I'm going to tell you, like I told everybody else, there was a guy that had a shirt that said, "Don't let your president get your ass. Don't let your president get your ass whooped. We are not our ancestors." So again, I don't feel bad for the old lady, because some people just need to get checked. At the same time, despite how you may feel about Palestine and in Israel and Hamas and everything that's going on in the world, again, you just don't assault somebody just because they say they're from there. I mean, unless they're a Nazi, then at that point, stomp them out. You call yourself a Nazi, you deserve to get stomped out, because, again, a lot of those people that want to be Nazis or trying to be like Nazis have been marching and protesting areas, and they've been marching and protesting areas untouched. Now, I am all for protests and I'm all for freedom of speech, but I'm sorry, when your freedom of speech is coming from a place of hatred, the only way you're going to get the hint that we don't tolerate it is that you got to get stomped out. My name is William, and I approve this message. But moving right along, guys, I hate to get back to Trump, because, again, this is what I was worried about, that the Democrats, and they really drug their feet, specifically the Department of Justice drug their feet. And now everybody's just waiting for the shoe to drop. What I mean by that, guys, is that his court cases, specifically one of them is sentencing, have been pushed back. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Prosecutors told the judge in President-elect Trump's hush money case they opposed dismissing it, but said the sentencing could be delayed. Laura Jarrett is here. Laura, the judge has a big decision to make here.
Another first in this nation's history, Lester. The judge could decide to postpone the sentencing until Mr. Trump is no longer in office, meaning 2029. That's something that the DA proposed for the first time today. We could also see him wipe out the conviction entirely. That's what the defense team wants. Obviously, the prosecution pushing back. No word yet from Judge Merchan on when exactly he will rule, but you'd have to expect he's going to do this sometime before Inauguration Day, Lester.
All right, Laura Jarrett.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, it is amazing to me that Trump, that felon, may actually beat all his cases. Why? Because the simple fact of the matter, guys, that his legal team knew exactly what the frack they were doing. Delay, push back. Attack, delay, pushback, attack. What Trump does best outside of bankruptcy and just overall lying to people, his lawyer team, his team of attorneys, his department of attorneys are very good at literally pushing the goalpost back. And what was the goal? What was the goal? Because he's running to be reelected as president. So he can't have this, and it still behooves me, baffles me even, that, again, before Trump was president-elect, he was a public citizen. He was a private citizen, like all of us. He had no bearing. He had no power in office. He may have ran the Republican Party with an iron fist, but at the same time, he had no power. And yet, let's think about the court cases. His sexual assault case, his Manhattan mortgage fraud case, his case about the documents from the FBI in Florida, his election interference case in Georgia. That's just four major cases which should have disqualified anybody from running as president again and should have been able to run easy. But thanks to President-elect and his lawyers, what did they do? Every case, I'm sorry, let me get that wrong. 2 out of his 4 major cases, because his case of sexual assault, he was found guilty in. His case in the Manhattan mortgage fraud, he was found guilty in. And in his Manhattan case, was supposed to be sentencing. Mortgage fraud. Again, this is a man who literally swindled his way. Him and his pops didn't lease apartments to black people. Trump himself has sat there and said, I don't want black people counting my money. This is the same Trump who sat there and took a five-page ad out in the paper against the exonerated five in that infamous New York City event where he sat there and said those five should be executed, and they were teenagers. This is the same Trump who could not produce his tax returns, even though he has written off billions of dollars. And yet, because he's not president-elect, and again, I hate to say this, it is the opinion of the Department of Justice not to indict a sitting president. They treat this as law. And I don't know why something as opinion is being treated as law. Because what for? If he's guilty, he's guilty. Because it doesn't help that the Supreme Court just months ago turned around and sat there and said, well, there's some acts that a president does he is immune from. To which Trump's like, yay, I'm immune from us. I did some acts that I could possibly criminalize for. But again, the cases that he's a part of were all before he was president. So what am I getting at here? We may not see justice. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We may not see justice because there are some people in positions of power that could literally do what we always said about the law, that no one is above it, not even the president. And yet at this freaking time, you can turn around and actually make that a true statement, because so many other countries have jailed, even brought their president on trial. Republicans many times wanted to put Democratic presidents on trial, i.e. Bill Clinton, Barack Obama. They've tried on the court of public opinion. And yet, when it comes to Trump, we're like, no, we're just going to wait until after his presidency. I'm sorry, but the way that MF is going, he may not make it through his next presidency. And yet we may never see justice. At the same time, what are we telling the American people? That justice for some, but not all? That if you got enough money, power, and position, that literally you can circumvent anything? That's what we're pretty much saying. So you can't help but people get a little bit jaded when they think that, oh, well, Trump will never see justice because they're too busy protecting the president. At the same time, let's just stop saying nobody's above the law anymore if this passes. I'm just saying, because Matt Gaetz, who really should be a pedo, may wind up being the next attorney general. And we already have a felon who should be looking the inside of a jail cell, will now be our next president. Miss me with the bullshit. Speaking of the bullshit, Trump is still talking about deporting illegal immigrants, and he wants to use the military.
Turns a development in one of President-elect Trump's campaign promises, mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. This promise is already taking shape, as NBC News is reporting. The incoming Trump administration is in talks with private prison companies about expanding immigrant detention centers across the nation. Mr. Trump further outlined his deportation plan yesterday by responding true to a Truth Social post, that's his social media platform, saying he will declare a national emergency and use military assets to deport undocumented immigrants. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us with more on this. Julia, good morning. So what do we know at this point about the planning underway for these deportations? And do we know which groups would be targeted first?
Well, Savannah, that was one word to say a lot. And the way that tweet from that person from Judicial Watch read just said military assets. So there's still a lot we don't know. In the past, Trump, as well as other administrations, have used some military assets, like the National Guard. Under the first Trump administration, active duty troops were sent to the border to build barriers. The line is drawn, however, and it's drawn pretty clearly by the Constitution, that the U.S. military is not allowed to enforce domestic law. That means they can't put handcuffs on on migrants. They can't actually detain them, arrest them, and take them into custody. That is always left to Customs and Border Protection and to the Border Patrol. So in this case, it's unclear what he means by military assets. But if he's talking about invoking a law that he's talked about before, the Stafford Act, it would make him basically say, we are under an alien invasion from a foreign government. That would be hard to argue in court because, of course, most of these migrants are leaving countries that they're trying to flee the government, not representing a government themselves that's invading the United States. So that has been an idea floated in the past. Whether or not he goes that far still remains to be seen.
And Julia, as you point out, we don't have exact details in terms of the military assets that would be involved, what that looks like. But what impact will deploying the military, just generally with what we know, have on the situation?
Well, certainly it will be something that will cause attention. Whether or not it will actually end up arresting more migrants remains to be seen. It's something that is a bit of a muscle flex for the president. It's something he did in the previous administration to show he was serious. It's something other states have done. A lot of Republican governors will send their National Guards from their states, even not border states like South Dakota, what we're seeing from the incoming DHS secretary, something that she offered to Texas to send her National Guard, something governors have done in the past to show they mean business. Whether or not it actually increases the number of arrests remains to be seen because, of course, if he doesn't cross that line of actually arresting more migrants, that wouldn't increase it. What would is if he taps local law enforcement, something he said he's done, something we've heard from some local sheriffs they're willing to do. If they start arresting migrants, that would increase the manpower of ICE to go out and do more arrests. That would actually have a very large impact on deportation, Savannah.
So what's amazing about this is it's like, well, we don't know what the president may do. Yeah, we do. Because, well, he ran on this. His whole thing was, I'm going to do the largest deportation of illegal immigrants because they're bringing their worst over here. They're bringing their murderers, their rapists. And, you know, for people that don't know any better, i.e. idiots, they ate that up. So now Trump again is like, well, I'm going to use the military. And somebody on the other side should be saying, no, you can't use it the way you want to. But he's surrounded himself with yes men. He wants to remove Joint Chiefs of Staff. He wants to remove Joint Chiefs of Staff that simply will not do his bidding. So again, who's not to say that you will not see armed forces helping along with law enforcement? Because we know the good old boys in Texas and Georgia and Alabama, and for some odd reason, my landlocked state of Tennessee are all too happy to help with the border crisis that is 1,100 miles away from us. I'm just throwing that out there because we've seen what happens with Texas. Texas wanted to hold the line with letting people in, and what did we see? We saw ads from Tennessee. We saw ads from Florida. We're going to help out Texas because they're trying to keep our borders safe. For what? Here's the thing about immigrants. Immigrants don't just hop fences. They take planes. They take cars. At the same time, our economy, the way it runs, immigration is a catalyst. You remove all these so-called illegal immigrants. You remove them from America, and America will look drastically different. Because again, for all those, I always say, who are these illegal immigrants harming? Are they taking your jobs? Because they're really working the jobs nobody wants to work, agricultural and service industry. So when you remove that, businesses are going to have a hard time finding employment. You already saw it in Florida. DeSantis decided to flex a little muscle, and what happened? Construction crews got mighty short. People who were working vineyards weren't working as fast as immigrants. Crops got lost. Money got lost. And let's be honest, the only way you really do change things in areas that will understand it is you speak money. They lose enough of it, you get their attention. And we're about to find out, again, if he pulls this off. Because I actually put this in the same caliber as conservatives believing that someday the government's coming for your tricked out $1,500 gun from Bass Pro Stores. They're not. Let it go. The government has access to way much better stock than the $1,500 AR rifle that you bought on a whimsy because you thought it was cool. So I leave it at that. But moving right along, guys, I do got to stay local for a second because I keep bringing this up about Republicans and how they operate. Republicans do not build, they burn. They burn it to the ground and then sever the carcass and then give it out to their friends and call it progress. Don't believe me? Tennessee State University. Republicans moved the entire TSU board and decided to take it over for themselves. That was 7 months ago.
Developing right now, Tennessee State University is facing a financial crisis. And all of this is according to university officials. And we've talked about it for years now.
We've been following all of the issues that the university has faced. And now we're looking at layoffs. The university saying about 115 employees will be laid off this fall. And they're still struggling, even after the state advanced them $32 million to try to shore up their payroll through the end of the year.
So we are working to get some more answers from Fox 17 News. Madeline Nolan joining us live outside of the Avon Williams campus this Friday morning. Madeline, what are lawmakers now asking of Tennessee State University?
Well, they're now asking TSU officials to consider selling the Avon Williams campus here in downtown Nashville to kind of get out of this hole that the prior administration dug up for them. Now, all of their financial struggles were laid out during a hearing that took place on Thursday. The audit shows that a lot of it derived from when the university experienced an influx of enrollment causing a housing crisis. But then also when it came to distributing scholarship money, pointing out how the former administration used a one-time federal COVID-19 grant to fund these scholarships, but couldn't uphold them in the following years.
The previous administration and trustees have driven this university to a breaking point, and it is up to you to reorganize, reorient, and lead a rebirth of this university.
Now, moving forward, the state urges the university to consider laying off more employees, and that does include tenured professors. Right now, TSU says that their monthly payroll expense is between $18 to $20 million. You can learn more about their financial crisis by going to our website at fox17.com. Again, that is Fox17.
So this is after the state had taken over because, again, TSU actually is owed by the state $500 million because Tennessee State, unlike Vanderbilt, unlike Belmont, unlike MTSU, unlike I keep going down the list, other colleges and universities who actually get proper funding from the state, TSU is a HBCU and has yet to see the money that they were owed from the state outside the $32 million. Now, here's the crazy part, because a lot of people are wondering, well, how did we get here? Well, it's easy. Republicans wanted to look at Tennessee State and go, we want that. We want what you guys have. Location, location, location. How do we do it? We'll starve you. And then at the end of it all, we will take over and still blame you. This was part one.
In today, House Democrats thought that they had a compromise, that only half of the members would be vacated, the other half would be kept for continuity purposes. Evidently, that's not what happened.
But now at the 11th hour, we're going to pull this.
Tennessee House Democrats thought they had brokered a compromise.
And there was an agreement that 3 members of the board who were appointed by the governor would be vacated.
Then Republicans reversed course.
If they can't manage it, then we need to find people who can.
They decided to completely replace all 10 members of the TSU Board of Trustees.
The buck stops at the top. The people who are in charge of managing the organization are responsible.
Much to the outrage of Nashville lawmakers.
So why are we picking on TSU?
The optics of this today are awful.
The HBCU has been under the microscope for years after several audits found issues with overpromising housing while under-delivering on record keeping.
That they kept accepting students in for which they didn't have housing.
And now a new independent audit released Thursday found that while TSU was not guilty of any fraud, they did find 56 observations and 60 recommendations that bring up concerns. Those include not being able to reconcile all their finances and being unable to keep accurate accounts of student scholarship funding.
I-66, 25 names.
Speaker Sexton says a bipartisan group actually tried to avoid vacating board members altogether.
At first, there was no legislation. Board members were going to resign.
In conversations, things did not go the way that I guess some of the members wanted to have happen. And as a result, they chose that route.
Republicans claim when other attempts at compromise fell through, they decided they had no choice.
If we don't put a line in the sand, you've gone enough, we would be derelict in our duty. This has been going on for years now.
And now that Democrats have no choice, they say they'll do all they can to keep TSU moving forward.
We are deeply concerned, of course, about the effect it'll have upon the administration, students, and the direction the school is trying to go and to rectify some of the concerns that were raised in the audits.
So again, that was 7 months ago. 7 months ago, they did vote, and Sexton, idiot Sexton, and the rest of the Tennessee Republicans were able to remove the TSU Board of Trustees, and the state took over. And the state, again, 7 months ago, the state was now saying, oh, well, we can't seem to get you guys can't seem to get your payroll correct. So now failed audits, now payroll issues, but still not giving them enough money to where these other colleges are able to function. But here's the one thing TSU does have: location, assets, property. And what these Republicans want to do? Burn it down and pick the carcasses. They would love nothing. Let me tell you something about Tennessee Republicans. Tennessee Republicans would love nothing more than to close down an HBCU and use the location and its assets or sell it off to their friends. And that's what they want to do at TSU. They're wanting to turn around and they're wanting to pick the car. They're burning it down, trying to, but now they want to pick the carcass clean because, suggesting they sell their Avon campus, well, to who? Because I guarantee there's a realtor out there who's a friend of those Republicans that would love nothing more than to turn around and pretty much buy it for steal. This is why I keep talking about, guys, when it comes to Republicans. They don't build, they burn, and then they pick what's left over. So again, we shouldn't be surprised, but hopefully TSU, like I said, if TSU could use some help right now, it's definitely needed, because again, TSU is owed $500 million in funding from the state, has yet to actually get it, but the state is too busy trying to basically close it down in just one location at a time. Not surprised by that. What I am surprised about, guys, is the next story, because I did talk about this a couple weeks back, where University of Rochester students saw wanted posters, specifically Jewish staff members. Well, they did arrest 4 university students that were doing those wanted posters regarding Jewish staff members. They're being charged with felony criminal mischief. But yet those 4 students' names have not been released. Why? Because here's my thing. If you want, and I'm just being honest with you, if you want certain things to stop, you must shame them. Which in this case, I'm trying to figure out, when you have wanted posters of Jewish staff members at a prestigious school in this day and age, how is just felony criminal mischief the only thing you can charge them for? Because if a woman in a Panera Bread can attack a man for simply saying he's Palestinian, and yet she's being charged with a hate crime, how is it that these 4 students are not seeing that same type of inflection? Well, they just put up posters that just say wanted. No, they put up posters saying wanted, infringing upon targeting members because they were Jewish. Again, there's just something wrong about that. That's harassment. That's intimidation. That's literally the basis for a hate crime. And at the same time, why are these students not being put out for the world to see? They're not kids. They're adults. Why are their names not put out for the world to see? This is the times I wish for at the time when it was Twitter, where Twitter and Instagram and all social media do their thing to find out who these 4 people are and roast them for the world to see. I miss those days because we're too busy protecting the predators when we need to actually shine a light on them. But we'll see. Social media may surprise us all, and those names still may come out. But it's amazing. They'd rather protect the kids because those individuals cause irreparable harm to those people on those wanted posters, simply put, because their ethnic group. That's all I'm saying. But before we get to our feel good segment, guys, I got to talk about this because I'm confused. California, I am confused because you, California, have explained to do. What I mean by that is this: that in this election, California had a minimum wage increase ballot on their vote. I'm sorry, had a minimum wage motion on their ballot, and that ballot was to increase the state's minimum wage to $18 an hour. I know, nowhere near enough. Well, that actual measure was defeated, actually failed, because people were sitting there citing if costs go up, businesses will not be able to compete and may have to close their doors. It is the same, and I can't stress this enough, guys. It's the same argument that how is it that folks will always come to the defense of those that have the money versus those that have not. What I mean by that is, guys, I have said this the entire time. The minimum wage in this country is horrendous. It is ridiculous because minimum wage, minimum wage at its entirety was supposed to be, this is as much as you can, the minimum meaning the most minute amount that you can live off of, but can still sustain yourself, housing, clothing, food, all the above. That's what minimum wage is for. That was the bargain basement. You could live off this. Minimum wage hasn't changed since 2007. Still $7. We're 2024. About a month or so away from going into 2025. Minimum wage in some areas, mainly red states, is still under $8 an hour. Granted, there are some cities and states their minimum wage may be $15, maybe even almost close to $20 an hour, but still, the federal is still under $8 an hour. And every time, I have always said it, we need to increase the minimum wage. Whoa, that means that businesses won't be able to compete. Well, again, I don't see the problem. Well, if you had it your way, minimum wage would be almost $26, $27 an hour. For the cost of living in this country, yes, that's what it should be. Well, how can business be afford to pay people? And I love when I hear that, because I can now counter that again and say, wait till inflation hit. Wait till those tariffs hit. Wait till those tariffs hit. Because anytime they sit there and say, well, we increase the minimum wage, some businesses won't be able to retain employees. It sounds like businesses will have to pay more. It sounds to me that businesses will have to pay more to retain employees, or employees will go to who is paying more. It sounds like a business problem. Whenever I say increase the minimum wage, it's not a business problem we're running into. It's not a people problem we're running into. It's a business problem. Because people, hey, how would you like to be paid more at your job? I will never see anyone go, oh, no. I make just enough in my job right now. I'm great. I don't need more. Said no one ever. But tell a businessman, a CEO, hey, what do you think about paying your employees more? You can hear the wallets just slam shut, because they can't mess with their profit sharing. They can't mess with their salaries. So what are they doing? They're simply saying, well, they get people out here who don't make nowhere near what they make, defend them. I've seen people make $45K a year defend billionaires. Well, they just can't afford it. They'll close up shop and go somewhere else. Where are they going to go? Overseas? That only lasts for so long. And again, without actually having workers, your businesses are going to make it anyway. So sitting there saying that businesses are going to suffer or survive or just won't be able to make it is caca. But what happens when people are paid more? They spend more. The economy actually thrives. That's what we keep saying ourselves. Our economy is based on capitalism. If we're not spending, America's not moving. And you know how you move America? Pay people what they can live off of without them trying to kill themselves on multiple job hustles, things of that nature. But again, California, I am surprised. I expect this out of Tennessee, but not California. Simple fact of the matter is, guys, the minimum wage does need to increase, and there's not an argument out there against that says otherwise, outside of the fact that you just believe that businesses need to get more priority over people. And if you're saying that, then just say it. Just saying. But we're going to move on to our feel-good segment, guys, because usually how the fact we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes I make you faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is pre-Friday, which is Thursday. We will leave you guys out with some good vibrations. And this one is actually a good one because as a kid, we always imagine as a kid, you know, what if we make it, if we get successful enough or rich enough that we'll go back and take care of our parents, right? This young man did exactly that with his mom.
Hey, Mom. I know I'm supposed to be home, but unfortunately the weather is keeping me here in Houston. I told you I had a surprise for you a couple of weeks ago, and my gift to you is in this envelope. It's the check and the receipt to no more mortgage payments for you. You now own your home. Congratulations.
Oh. My mom was a very emotional person on any given day. There was a lot of gratitude, a lot of tears of just saying, like, thank you so much. Like, I never thought I'd see the day. About last December, I asked my mom to send me her mortgage statement. And I made up a lie. And I think I was like, oh, I want you to compare it to my mortgage statement from my home. But ultimately, I wanted to know how much she owed on the home so I can compare. She sent me this statement. I set a date. I put it in my mind like, hey, I'm going to have all this money saved by this date. Granted, I had already been saving for it. I just didn't know the exact number. I was planning on going home, but the hurricane came. I would have had to lay over in Atlanta, and I didn't want to get stuck. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to fly home. I'm just going to cancel my plans. And I said, well, what else could I do? And I was like, oh, I'll just send a video. I got on the phone with my sister. I was like, hey, I'm going to record a video. I just need you to play it.
This envelope is the check and the receipt to no more mortgage payments for you. You now own your home. Congratulations.
Oh. Mom has always been an extremely hard worker, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Like, it was just a lot of relief for her to just be free, I guess, in a sense of not having that burden anymore. And that's what she expressed to me on the phone, and just being very thankful and expressing her gratitude. When I called her, I was like, oh, it's the first. You don't have a payment due. You know, how do you feel? This is your first month for 20 years that you don't have to pay your mortgage. You know, how does that feel to you? I think that is such a beautiful thing for her to experience, of just being free. Anyone who knows me knows that I am a workaholic. In college, I had 2 jobs. Post-college, working at Microsoft, I still worked at Delta Airlines as well. I still bartend. As crazy as it sounds, those jobs keep me close to my mom, because my mom was a laborer. She was a worker. That's what my mom instilled in me. It's just like, do the work and great things will come. It was just a thank you for everything that you've done for me and you continue to do for me, and the work ethic you've instilled in me.
You can't knock that. Now, again, that's a good son. And also, like I said, future homeowners, there's just something about, you know, not having payments, or if you've been paying for a number of years, like that young man's mom was, there's a look. The fact that you now own it, it just, that right there is a weight that you really took off your mom's shoulders, to where she can go, just normal mortgage payments. I have the deed to my house. You can't beat that with a stick. So definitely a feel good moment. I always say to myself, one day I'll be able to do that for my old man. And we all gonna get there. Like I said, we all want to be homeowners, even in Trump's America, but we gonna be all right. But with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this show. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, let people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Shameless plugging as usual before we get out of here, guys. I want to talk about BlurredStation.com. BlurredStation.com, the vehicle that I keep talking about that is for us, but us, for us, by us, especially our content. Most importantly, our monetary goes back into our pockets. Tubi is great, but Tubi is also owned by the same guy who owns Fox, and Tubi is well worth over $100 million, and that's because based on our viewership. those dollars should go back to us, and Blur Station is one of those networks that can definitely help us with that. If you want to check it out, definitely go to blurstation.com. If you want to even better and join us, at the Join Now button. Under the Join Now button, you'll select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership. From there, guys, you would just select anybody there, including Black Spartan, myself. It is $10.99 a month to view Blur Station. Again, $10.99 a month. You can't beat that with a stick. After 36 months, guys, you do have the ability to own a piece of Blur Station. And again, it is one of those areas I keep talking about, guys, that we need to support. So definitely check out blurstation.com. Also, check out APR TV or alwayspressrecord.com. Why? Because How the Frack is also there along with other shows. Again, another vehicle there that is our dollars. That is everything for us to go into. So definitely check it out either on alwayspressrecord.com or the APR TV app on your Roku device. Either way, support it. Again, our content, our monetary should definitely go back to, definitely go back to us. Also, I keep on talking about this, guys. You want to know how the Republicans did it. You want to know how the Tea Party did it. You want to know how Moms for Liberty did it. They started here, runforoffice.org. Now, I keep talking about runforoffice.org because I know out there's somebody that may feel the need to want to do public service. If you do, that's great. Ever wonder about how you should do that? Well, runforoffice.org can definitely help you with that. Simply put, guys, just type in your full address, and they will go from there as far as telling you how to get registered in your city or state, whether you want to run locally or nationally. Again, they'll be able to help you with that. But this is what I keep talking about, guys, how they basically out-organized us. How they got people out there. Simply put, if you feel the call to public service, runforoffice.org can definitely help you. As for myself, guys, you can find me Black_Spartan615 on the interwebs. Again, I usually talk about more than just current events, and I'm cool to talk to. I just ask, don't be weird. I don't have to block anybody and do anything. Just simply put, guys, keep it casual. Don't be weird. At the same time, guys, link at the bottom, make that a little bit bigger for you guys. See if you copy and paste that link into your browser. Check my link tree, the YouTube groups for all of my podcasts. Like, share, subscribe. Again, guys, we cannot do this. We cannot grow these channels without your assistance. So please and thank you to all that definitely do that. At the same time, guys, I know we talk about the Kaka show, and yet that's going on. Trump's not too far away from being sworn in. I will say this, Democrats, for any Democrats that may look up and listen to this podcast or watch it, you got a full month. You got the end of this month. I know Turkey Day is next week. Turkey Day is next Thursday. So, y'all getting anything done is almost impossible. But you have the whole month of December. What the Republicans did in 60 days when they knew Biden was about to be president is the same thing you can do in 30 days, because Doritos gonna get another shot at this. You can push through nominations. You can get laws passed through. You can get laws in the books passed through well before Doritos in office. It is upon you to do so. At the same time, Merrick Garland and DOJ can actually stop pushing. Can actually stop doing trudging their feet and actually getting things done. Democrats, you can do a lot in 30 days and actually restore some faith in the American people before the next 4 years happen. Because trust me, it's not just going to be 4 years. Trump is going to try to figure out how to make this work in his favor. And again, he's surrounded himself with people who do nothing more than say yes, sir, and do what he wants. Ball's in your court, Democrats. You choose how to play it. At the same time, guys, because next week is Turkey Day, no show next week. But we will come back week after Turkey Day because we will officially be in Mariah Carey season known as Christmas and pretty much go from there. But guys, again, be vigilant, be informed, get involved, because the only way we can be the resistance that we hope to be is that we have to do what they did, out-organize them. That being said, guys, again, pretty much how the Frack got here, it's all about being informed. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're simply giving you information to allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past and making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors. Maybe one day down the line, we'll be able to elect a Black woman to be the first Madam President of these here United States. Once everybody stops being sexist and racist and fascist. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. Ergo, this next administration. Again, why do we elect different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. It's going to be a long-ass 4 years, but we can get through this. Peace.